So, Dad, I think the first question that I want to ask you, and I probably asked it before, over collect calls. My first question is, when I was born, I've heard many stories that you was either in DYS or you had just came home from DYS. And I know I was born prematurely and I had a couple issues, like, as far as a bladder infection or something, so I had to stay in an incubator. And I heard stories how you and a few of your friends used to come to the hospital to visit me. And, y'all used to leave money inside the incubator. I used to ride wheelchairs up and down the hospital hallway and stuff like that. But my question is to you, what was it like me being your first son, your firstborn? What was that like for you in whatever situation you was in at that time, whether it was the streets, whether you was hustling, robbing, whatever it was, what was that like? What was that like to you, having a newborn son being in the lifestyle that you was living at that time?
Well, being honest with you, the lifestyle that I was living, it didn't matter of having a son, because I didn't want to bring the way life is now. If I would have known then, I didn't want to bring a son or any child at the age of 17 into this kind of world that we're living in now. But the lifestyle that I was living in, it presented me a son like you at the age of 17. And I don't regret my decisions of having you. I regret some of the decisions of bringing you into a world that you had to go through that I was living in. So you had to go through the same process, because at the time when your mother, I was in DYS, which I was only committed to it, so I was only doing 6 months to 9 months. But your mom visited me with your grandmother, because you can only come when you was young with another parent. And I was told then when she was maybe 5 months that she was pregnant. So me coming home, I still was caught up in the streets because of the lifestyle.
Yep.
That, as you know, the streets was telling me, man, I had to do what I had to do. But being a young father at 17, with my friends coming to the hospital, the stories you was hearing, all of them is correct. But we was just living young, wild, your problem, the issues that you was having health-wise, it still didn't prevent me from being a better father, because I should have took your situations of health-wise more serious, because I continued to be in the street. And that's where we at right now.
Cool. All right, so my next question, Dad, is this. So at what age was I, because I don't remember, when you went away for a long period of time, which, left me without my dad, based on the lifestyle that you was living, right? But what age was it? What age were you and what age was I when you went away for your first long stretch?
Well, my long stretch, my first bid, when I went to jail, I left you was about, I'll say about 2. And I was committed to, my first sentence was a 20 to 40 year sentence. And after 3 years, I flipped it to an 18-year sentence. So that means that I had to do, with the 18-year sentence, I only had to do 2 years, but I already had 3 years, and so I was able to, for parole, I was eligible for parole. But I was sentenced to a long period of time. And again, the lifestyle and the way life was and the way the prison system was, again, I was coming right back home after being committed to 20 years of my life. I was coming back right home in 5 years. So I did 5 years basically before I was able to come back home to you, and I came home and still got caught right up into the same thing, after 5 years of being behind the wall.
Word up. So being away for those 5 years, right? Like, obviously, Dad, because I've been to prison. I know what that's like, sitting down and having children in the outside world. So when you were sitting down for those 5 years, your mind's clear. Obviously, you're not in the streets engaging in activity. So what was that thought process like of thinking about me, your firstborn, while you were sitting down? Like, did you have plans to come home and, you know, do the right thing, or did you already know during that 5 years, look, man, I got a son out there, but at the same time, I'm still young. I'm going to get right back at it.
I didn't look at what my choices would be, because, you know, I had a father that once, no matter what, at a young age, 8, 9, 10, I was my father's only son, which you was my only son at the time. But my father would take me, you know, when I had paroles, I always had a job. So I had a job, and when I was come home, I was able to work. But I would only work so long before, again, the element of the streets, you know, again, from where my environment, you know, which most of us, again, as I'm gonna put it back to your book, you know, the streets would tell you all the good things, you know. So I was just thinking about the good things. Me having a son, though, to answer your question, me having a son, it was very, very, I was very proud and happy to have a son, but I wanted my son to have everything too. And my thing of going to work and providing for you, that was what my father instilled in me. But once I came home and would go to work, I would take my money from the work pot and make sure our bills were paid. But I still had bills. So I would go right back to the streets. So after 5 years of sitting down, I didn't really want to accept and embrace the fact of maybe fatherhood at the age of 20 now, maybe 23, 24. You know, I couldn't catch myself of being a father, which I was a father. But my thing was all material stuff, you know, because I was still being a street person, you know, and so it didn't reflect in my mind to be a positive role model as a father that my father was to me, that I should have been after 5 years. I didn't have, you know, I didn't have drug issues at that time. You know, I never drunk alcohol. I only smoked marijuana. So my way of thinking was just to keep doing what I was doing to provide for my family. And that's what I did. And me doing that, I kept putting myself in situations that took me out of your life.
Wow. And that's good to hear, because like I said, that I had, like, growing up, man, being young, you know, I heard all the stories. There was one particular story that I always hold on to, and I've never asked you this about it, but I'm gonna ask you. So, right in this very backyard right here, and on this third floor that we're at right now, you know, we would have cookouts, as you know, family functions. While you was away, some of your friends, you know, Warren, Scoey, Donnie French, they would be at these functions. And I always heard a story how there was a time when I was, you know, a newborn or 1, 2 years old, whatever it was, where Auntie and them, because you was hustling, you know, you was still hustling while in prison. So that they used to, you know, stuff my diaper with certain things to keep the hustle going. I know, you know, sometimes it was marijuana, sometimes it was other things, but I'm asking you as my dad, is that true? Like, were there times?
Not necessarily true, because at that time, you know, the prison system is nowhere like it is now.
Okay.
You don't have nothing like the same security.
Okay.
You know, so sometimes people will fantasize and boister up conversation, things that was true and wasn't true.
Yeah.
It was easy to get anything in the prison system then. So when people say you had marijuana, other drugs or substance or whatever, not all of it was true.
Okay.
Or not all was true. So I'm here to tell you that it wasn't true. Did your mom, your aunts, anybody ever? Of course, because at that time, you was able to bring it. And that's what we was doing. And that's what they continue to do today, you know, but it's more secure. And as you know, if you watch the news, no matter which way it goes, it's even worse now than it was then. And I'm talking about the only thing they was bringing in was marijuana.
Word.
But you can be, as you know, like me and you both been through it. I might have been in a minimum when they started bringing it in. But you know, you'll hear some, when you know, certain people will make, like I was behind the walls and you was bringing in it all, like you was bringing it in yourself.
Yeah.
It was not a true fact.
Word up.
Not a true fact.
All right. And so I guess now that it's like, so we, you know, we touched on a few things being young. And I want you to know, as my dad, you know, growing up, because I didn't have my dad in my life at that age, so I didn't even know what having a father in my life was like. You know, I didn't know what that was like, not having you or having you there. I didn't know. But there did come a certain time when I did begin to realize that I was coming to see my dad in prison. Like, I was very familiar with my mother getting up in the morning, listening to music, getting dressed, putting her makeup on, and she would be in a real good mood. I would be in a good mood because my mother was in a good mood. You know, we about to go see your father. Dad, I can't tell you like how excited. How excited I used to get knowing that I was coming to see my dad. And so now that I say that I didn't really know any better what it was like not having my dad, I guess I did at a certain age unconsciously know that my dad wasn't in my life, because now thinking back, I had to go somewhere to see my father. And the reality set in at a very young age, and this is where I think personally where my a little bit of my anger set in, not towards you, just toward the situation, and not even knowing what I was really angry about. Is we would come there to visit you, sit with you, you would come out, Dad, and I swear, man, you coming out of that door, Dad, that meant everything to me. Like, seeing you walk out, you know, you was always clean, you know, you was in shape. And I'll never forget, every time I hugged you, you would hug me so tight. You would tell me in my ear you love me and you smelled so good. Like, I always remember you smelling so good. We would have a good time. You would play with me. I remember these things, Dad. But then it was the leaving part. It seemed like the whole energy changed. Like, and I would always pick up on it from my mother. Like, she would just get so sad. Like, when we're leaving out, we had to go to the lockers, get her pocketbook, get my stuff. And Dad, she would be so quiet. Like, she wouldn't say anything. And a lot of times, you know, we took the bus and train sometimes to see you. And I didn't even know, like, I knew she was upset because how did it go from you being so happy in the morning, going to see my dad, and now you're upset? But I didn't know what to ask her. You know, Mom, what's wrong? But then there came a time when I did. Like, I began to ask her, Mom, what's wrong? And she would always say, this is not the life I want. And she would leave it like that. And it seemed like that she would be in a sad state for like the next 2 or 3 days. But her not giving me a full answer on what she meant when she said, this is not the life she wanted. Now I'm confused. I don't know, like, what are you talking about, Mom? But I could not formulate those words. I didn't know how to ask her, you know, a deeper question. So I know those are some of the times and some of the moments, man, that started that process of me, like, internalizing and not really knowing why I was feeling some of the ways I was feeling at a young age. So I guess my next question to my dad is, at what age did you start, like, getting the word from my mother, from my grandmother, which is your mother, from my aunties, that I was entering the street life? Like, around what age do you think I was?
Well, you know, to be To be honest with you, you was already a teenager, but I've already heard the stories. But my real introduction to what I knew when my son, which is you, that was into the streets a little bit, was one day your mother called me and she said, Richard, I want you to come over to her house. You always living in Brockton over at the project over there.
Okay.
And she called me and asked me, she said, Richard, come, I want to show you something. When she called me, and I don't know if you remember, you should, it's your room. When she brought me into your room, you had a picture of nothing but guns on your wall. Pictures of nothing but, all pictures of guns that was on your wall. You might have been, I don't know, y'all must have been living in Pine Grove.
Okay, I know what
Pine
you're talking about.
Estates,
Reservoir Street.
Reservoir Street, right across from the 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
So that was my really knowing, you know, that you was into the streets. Just saying, cause you had the pictures of your wall. So I know, but that was my first time of knowing.
Yep.
And then the situation where you had to come back here, you know what I'm talking about, when you had with them kids. Then I knew you was really into it. Because not only do I see the pictures, now I know you got guns in your household from that situation. And my next time was, it was just on the tip of my tongue too. But I knew. It wasn't hard for you to be in the street because it was always around you. You know, it was always around you. Did I want it for you? Not necessarily, but when I know that you were in the streets, and me knowing the streets, I wanted to be able to tell you what I knew. And see, being away from you a lot of times, I didn't get to tell you or teach you what I knew. And not everything I knew was the right way or was the positive way. Because again, as I said, I had a father that would teach me how to get up every day and go to work, opposed to how I'm teaching you or how I taught you how to get up and go hustling. So I didn't really I don't fantasize which one's better than the other. You know, but to really say when I knew you was in trouble was those two situations, you know, and everything else came, you know, after that. But I already knew, you know, which you know, I knew. I don't even know how old you was then, but you was young. The other time before we go, you was already did a sentence. We was writing each other. And I came to your house then, and the first thing I see is you coming out the yard that way. That really, see, everything else I was hearing. I see the pictures on the wall. I see you when you come back here, but when that last situation, you was already embedded into the streets. Not into the streets, embedded into the streets with that situation.
What's the difference?
The difference is, to me, is when you're in the streets, you could be hustling, you could be drinking, you could be drugging, you could do everything. You could be the way the streets are now, you could be gang banging. When I knew that my son had guns, he was involved in guns in the first situation I just spoke on, his mother just showed me pictures. You could be fantasizing about guns, doesn't mean that you're involved with guns. The second situation I just spoke on was when I knew my son had took some guns from somewhere and he had them. So now I know that he has them in his possession. The third situation was when I spoke on was when I seen my son with a gun in his hand doing a situation, getting ready to do a situation. Do you remember?
Yes.
So that's the difference. You know, again, as he's promoting and what we're talking about here now is the streets can tell you all the good things about how to get up every morning and go hustling, stealing, robbing, but it don't tell you the bottom line of his situation, his outcome that happened. And his outcome is not just his outcome is millions of young black men. So that's the difference, because some of us can still be in the streets and survive, but we're not going to be able to fool the streets for long. So the difference is being in the streets and just knowing that, okay, I fantasize about being in the streets, but when you're in the streets, when you're living it the way you lived it, because a lot of people don't, well, young black men don't take the streets as serious as others. For me, the difference is being in the street and being really into the streets. You can fantasize all day long about being in the streets, but really being into the streets, that I know that I wasn't, I know that my son had to, and he's here now, that's a big difference of the fantasize of the streets.
There came a time, man, and I know you probably remember this, the year 2000, July 19th. I don't know if you remember or not, but me and you was going through a little bit of turbulence. Like, you know, we weren't speaking for whatever reason. And on July 19th, I got into a situation where I took a young man's life. And immediately, the first person I thought of after the fact was my dad. I had to come find my dad. I needed to see my father. And I came here, right here, where we at today. And you was here. Excuse me, you wasn't here. Somebody called you. I don't know if they told you what had happened, but you came right here. We went up to your old bedroom on the 3rd floor. You asked me what happened. And I told you, point blank, the absolute truth of what happened. You hugged me. We cried together. And 4 days later, I was arrested, charged with murder. And from that point on, I was gone for the next 20 years, 19 and a half years. What was it like for you that day, Dad? Like, that day when I showed up here and we went to that 3rd floor and I told you exactly what happened, how did you feel?
Well, I you know, to be honest with you, I don't know what our turbulence was. I can remember some of the past times over the last 19 years that you was incarcerated, that you was a little angry about certain little situations. But that day, I remember that day just like it's today. I'll never forget it. You came here after going to get your brother from Brockton, after the situation. Whether he was here when you came or you came and got him, and then you came here. And for whatever reason, I just happened to come here. And your grandmother said that 2 of your sons are upstairs. Unbeknownst to me which 2 was here. I don't even remember how many sons I had at that time. Well, actually, all of you guys was born. So I came upstairs. You was already here. I came upstairs to the 3rd floor, and you heard me. You was in your aunt's room in the back. And you came to my room because you heard me coming upstairs. And your aunt said, "That's your father right there." And we went in my room and you told me. That's when you told me. Knowing that situation, the only thing I wanted to do at that time was try to save my son. Saving my son to me was to try to help you escape the situation. And which, you know, we within 4 days, you know, some things was trying to transpire, but you had committed a murder. So they was on you. When I got the call that you was arrested, that was the worst thing for me. You know, at that time. Because I know the possibilities, you know, of not seeing you again. But it was hard for me, you know, knowing that they had arrested you for that murder. So I, you know, I did what I had to do, and which I told you from that first call when you called me from the police station that night.
That's right.
Just to stand strong. Be a man and stand strong.
Wow.
And that's all you could do at that time, and you was a young man at 22. But I knew, you know, man, it's a hurt and pain. It's hurt. I didn't know how long, you know. I didn't know if I would ever see you again, you know. And that was a pain for me. But again, man, I loved you so much, and I still do to this day, that when you came to me, all I wanted to do was protect you and guide you through that. And you made it.
That's right.
And what I continue want to guide you and protect you.
Word.
So how did I feel? I was in a lot of pain. I couldn't be mad at nobody at that time. So when you sat down and told, you know, they told you that you was going to be sentenced to 15 to life, which I knew that you had to do at least 15 years. So the only thing at that moment was for me to be there for you the best way I could. And I just tried, because I knew what you was going to go through. Who knew better than me?
Wow.
So that's what I did, but I'll never forget it. I'll never forget from the first day when you came to me. I don't remember what we was going through. I don't even remember. But I know when you came to me, from that point on, the only thing I could do is to try to be there for my son.
Word up. And that 20 years that I just got done completing, man, I tell you right now, right? And everything, and all the questions I just asked you, and everything that we just said, man, I needed you more in that 20 years that I just got done doing than I've ever needed you in my entire life. And boy, did my dad step up, man. Dad, I don't know if you, I don't know, man. You got me through, man. Dad, you got me through, man. I tell you, if I couldn't call nobody, I knew I can call my dad. And that 20 years did something to me, man. It put so much things in perspective, man. There's not enough time right now to even explain what I went through in the 20 years. Never mind what I went through in the streets. What I went through in that 20 years. Nothing can compare to that. Nothing. But my dad was right there with me. Was right there with me, man. And Dad, you stepped up, man. You was a father to me, man, in a way that I couldn't even speak about. No matter what we went through in the 20 years, no matter what we went through in the past, no matter how I felt growing up, Dad, this 20 years, man, you got me through, Dad. It was times I couldn't call nobody, and I told you that. I couldn't call nobody. But you said to me, I can't speak for anybody else, but I'm your father. You're going to always be able to call me. And Dad, you kept that word to the end. To the very end. I love you, man. I appreciate you for that, Dad. Because I told you, man, I seen dudes in there, young black men, who don't even know their father. Don't even know who their father is, Dad. Never mind picking up the phone and calling them. Never mind receiving a money order. So I thank you for that, man. I thank you, Dad. And I just got one more question, man. You kept saying to me during so many phone calls, all you want is for your son to get out and come to you. You told me that's all you want. That's what you was living for. For your oldest son to come out and come to you. And I surprised you, man. You didn't know I was on my way to you, Dad. What was that feeling like, Dad? When your son came to you, man?
You know, man, you know, for those that don't know, you know, when, you know, I was at that time, man, my life was so low. I had just lost one of my 13 sons.
That's right.
A month prior, which is your brother.
That's right.
So for me to have, he was one of the 9 sons out of my 14 kids. I was at a low, man. I was at the lowest point in my life. I lost my mom. I lost my dad. All when I was behind the wall. I was home, you know, when my son passed, so I seen the struggles that he was going through. I was there when he was struggling. And to go through that, again, I don't wish that on nobody. And then one day, you know, just here at home, and my sister said, your granddaughter Melody's gonna pop up. And with this pandemic going on, I didn't think none of it, that they didn't come from the mall or they just was out here visiting. But anyway, they showed up, and they got out the car first, and a young man got out the car. This is across the street, so he got out the car and he stood at the back a little bit. And I said, well, and my first thought was, this is my granddaughter's boyfriend. He's kind of nervous to come across the street. And my sister looked, she says, that looked like my son. And by that time, I was still looking, and I'm looking. You know, he just stopped at the back of the car, and I'm looking. And man, if I went from a point so low in my life by losing one son, man, when God brought you back to me, the best thing that could have happened to me in my life. And you're here. How did I feel? I don't know how many words in the dictionary, but they need to find another one. I love you so much. What you know.
That's right.
Just to have you come back to me was the best thing in the world. The best thing in the world. Just knowing that my son came through that thing that we said in 3 words Survive the struggle and struggle to survive, man, and you can't do it. So it is what it is. You're here. I love you. And it's only just begun.
That's right.
It's only just begun.
That's right, Dad. And we got so much more work to do, man. Like being with my father. Every day I get up, Dad. Like I think about you every day, all day long, man. And sometimes, you know, I'm a grown man. I get childish, man. Like I feel like a little kid, man. Like when I know I'm about to come see my dad, when I'm talking to my dad on the phone, I mean, we just having regular conversation, man. I feel like a little kid, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that comes from, you know, being young and not being able to have you the way I have you today. Also, I know in my heart, so many of my peers don't have their father. I know that. That's another reason why I think I feel and I get giddy and I get happy the way I do. Because I got my dad, man. All my brothers, we have our father, man. And it feels good, Dad. It really does. It feels good having you in my life today, man.
Thank you.
It really feels good, man. My dad. Feels good, man. And the reason why I can say I understand and I hold no resentment, never did. Like I told you, my mother never spoke one bad word about my father. Not one. And what you was going through when I was young and not being there, in and out of prison, I did the same thing to my two daughters that you did to me. And Dad, we didn't do it on purpose, man. We didn't do it on purpose, man. And I don't think no father does it on purpose. But you have to be there. You have to be going through it. And you got to be of that mindset to understand what I'm talking about and what you were just talking about. If you wasn't, then I can't expect you to understand. But I know my two daughters are happy that I'm home. They're happy having their father in their life. So I get it, Dad. I get it. We putting that behind us.
Right.
And we here now. And we moving forward, man.
Oh, man, we're going to really move forward.
That's right.
You know what we talked about.
That's right.
Ain't nothing changed but you're home. You know, we're just giving these people, you know, a part of what we are, man, it's getting ready to start. But to let you know that you're home, you know, and we know what you have to do. The passion, you know, is within you, man. And I just want to see you live life on life terms. Because the way these streets are designed now, 20 years later, they're designed for a black man to not even breathe. So I just want you to do what you gotta do to try to help the young black man breathe. I love you so much.
Love you too,
I love
Dad.
all my children.
That's right.
I love you so much, man. You know that.
That's
you
right.
know that. You know. And we're gonna be all right.
Yes, we are,
We're gonna
Dad.
be all right.